What's up, Facebook friends and family? Happy Monday, everybody. How you doing? Today is day 21st of December on my 24-day challenge before Christmas, giving gratitude. If you don't know who I am, I'm Melissa Osborn, coming from Marathon, New York. I'm a network marketer. I help people build their business using their phone and helping them get out of their comfort zone and learn the ropes and find what they're passionate about and helping them on this journey of becoming their best person or become the best person they want to be. If you want to leave a comment, make sure you please hit the face StreamYard. Hey, Rachel, how you doing, hon? But I'm going to read the last chapter of The Science of Success. And if you're watching live, please put live. If you're watching replay, please put replay. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And what are your plans for this week? Other than just being on Facebook and running around with our heads cut off. And of course, my son. Yep. Thank you, Dan. My phone just sorry. Sorry, guys. My phone just got knocked over. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, thank you, Rachel. I love you. I'm glad you're here. If you don't know Rachel Johnson, friend her. She's amazing. She's got a great craft group. And I do apologize because my phone fell. Okay. A summary of the science of being great. All men are made of the one intelligent substance, and therefore all contain the same essential powers and possibilities. Greatness is equally inherent in all and may be manifested by all. Every person may become great. Every constituent of God, I think I'm saying that, constituent of God is a constituent of man. I think I'm saying it. Many may overcome both hereditary and circumstances by exercising the inherent creative power of the soul. If he is to become great, the soul must act and must rule the mind and the body. Man's knowledge is limited, and he falls into error through ignorance. To avoid this, he must connect his soul with universal spirit. Universal spirit is the intelligent substance from which all things come. It is in and through all things. All things are known to this universal mind, and man can so unite himself with it as to enter into all knowledge. To do this, man must cast out of himself everything which separates him from God. He must will to live the divine life, and he must rise above all moral temptations. He must forsake every course of action that is not in accord with his highest ideals. He must reach the right viewpoint, recognizing that God is all, in all, and that there is nothing wrong. He must see that nature, society, government, and industry are perfect in their present stage and advancing toward completion, and that all men and women everywhere are good and perfect. He must know that all is right with the world and unite with God from the completions of the perfect work. It is only as man sees God as a great advancing presence in all, and God and good in all, that he can rise to real greatness. He must reach the right viewpoint, recognizing that God is all in all and that there is nothing wrong. He must see the nature, society, government, and industry are perfect in their present stage and advancing toward completion, and that all men and women everywhere are good and perfect, just the way they are. He must know that all is right with the world, and unite with God from the completion of the perfect work. He must consecrate himself to the service of the highest, that is within himself, obeying the voice of the soul. There is an inner light in every man which continuously impels him toward the highest, and he must be guided by this light if he would become great. He must recognize the fact that he is one with the Father and consciously affirm this unity for himself and for all others. He must know himself to be God among gods and act accordingly. He must have absolute faith in his own perception of truth and begin at home to act upon the perception. As he sees the true and right course in small things, he must take that course. He must cease to act unthinkingly and begin to think, and he must be sincere in his thought. He must form a mental conception of himself as a highest and hold this conception until it is his habitual thought form of himself. This thought form he must keep continuously in view. He must outwardly realize and express that the thought form in his action. He must do everything that he does in a great way. In dealing with his family, his neighbors, acquaintances, and friends, he must make every act an expression of his ideal in his head. The man who reaches the right viewpoint and makes full consecration, and who fully idealizes himself as great, and who makes every act, however trivial, an expression of the ideal, has already attained to greatness. Everything he does will be done in a great way. He will make himself known and will recognize as a personality of power. He will receive knowledge by inspiration and will know all that he needs to know. He will receive all the material wealth he forms in his thoughts and will not lack for any good thing. He will be given ability to deal with any combination of circumstances which may arise, and his growth and progress will be continuous and rapid. Great works will seek him out, and all men will delight to do him honor. The man who reaches the right viewpoint and makes full consecration, and who fully idealizes himself as great, and who makes every act, however trivial, an expression of the ideal, has already attained to greatness. Everything he does will be done in a great way. Because its peculiar value to the student of the science of being great, I close this book by giving a portion of Emerson's essay on the Oversoul. This great essay is fundamental, showing the foundation principle of monism and the science of greatness. I recommend the student to study it most carefully in connection with this book. What is the universal sense of what the ignorance, but the fine innuendo by which the great soul makes its enormous claim? Why do men feel that the natural history of man has never been written, but always he is leaving behind what you have said of him, and it becomes old, and books of metaphysics worthless? The philosophy of 6,000 years has not searched the chambers and magazines of the soul. In its experiments, there has always remained in the last analyst a resundum it could not resolve. Man is a stream whose source is hidden. Always our being is descending into us from we know not whence. The most exact calculator has no prescience that somewhat incalculable may not balk the very next moment. I am constrained every moment to acknowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call mine. As with events, so it is with thoughts. When I watch that flow river, which out of regions I see not, pours for reasons, it streams into me. I see that I am a pensioner, not a cause, but a surprised spectator of this ethereal water. I think I'm saying these words right, that I desire and look up and put myself in the attitude for reception. But from some alien energy, the visions come. He will be given ability to deal with any combination of circumstances which may arise, and his growth and progress will be continuous and rapid. Great works will seek him out, and all men will delight to do him honor. The supreme critic on all errors of the past and present, and the only prophet of that which must be, is that great nature in which we rest. As the earth lies in the soft arms of the atmosphere, that unity, that oversoul with which every man's particular being is contained and made one with all other, that common heart of which all sincere conversation is the worship, to which all right action is submission, that overpowering reality which confutes our tricks and talents and constrains every one to pass for what he is, and to speak from his character and not from his tongue, and which evermore tends and aims to pass into our thought and hand and become wisdom and virtue and power and beauty. We live in succession, in division, in parts, in particular, in particles. This one's a long chapter. Meantime, within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particular particle is equally related, the internal one. And this deep power in which we exist and whose beauty or beat to betude is all accessible to us. It is not only self-sufficient and perfect in every hour, but the act of seeing and the thing seen, the seer and the specule, the subject and the object are one. We see the world piece by piece as the sun and the moon and the animal, the tree, with the whole, of which these are the shining parts and is the soul. It is only by the vision of that wisdom that the horoscope of the ages can be read, and it is only by falling back on our better thoughts, by yielding to the spirit of prophecy, which is innate in every man, that he know what is it saith. Every man's words who speaks from that life must sound vain to those who do not dwell in the same thought of their own part. I dare not speak for it. My words do not carry its august sense. They fall short and cold. Only itself can inspire whom it will. And behold, their speech shall be, or shall he, lyrical and sweet and universal, as the rising of the wind. Yet I desire, even by profane words, if sacred, I may not use to indicate the heaven of this dignity, Deity, and to report what hints I have collected of the transcendent simplicity and energy of the highest law. It is only by the vision of what wisdom that the horoscope of the ages can be read, and it is only by falling back on our better thoughts, by yielding to the spirit of prophecy which is innate in every man, that he know what it saith. If we consider what happens in conversation and revise in remorse in times of passion and surprise, in the instruction of dreams wherein often we see ourselves in masquerade, the drawl disguises only magnifying and enhanced of real elements and forcing it on our distinct notice, we shall catch many hints that will broaden and lighten into knowledge of the secret of nature. All goes to show that the soul in man is not an origin, but animates and exercises all the origins, is not a function like the power of memory, of calculating, of comparison, but uses these as hands and feet, is not a faculty but a light. It is not the intellect or the will, but the master of the intellect and the will is the vast background of our being, in which they lie, an immense, not possessed, and that cannot be possessed from within or from behind. A light shines through us upon things and makes us aware that we are nothing, but the light is all. A man is the facade of a temple wherein all wisdom and all good abide. What we commonly call man, the eating, drinking, planting, counting man, does not, as we know him, represent him, but misrepresents himself. Him we do not represent, but the soul, whose origin he is. Would he let it appear, though his action would make our knees bend. When it breathes through his intellect, it is genius. When it flows through his affection, it is love. All goes to show that the soul in man is not an origin, but animates and exercises all the organs, is not a function like the power of memory, of calculation, of comparison, but uses these hands and feet, is not a faculty but a light, is not the intellect or the will, but the master of the intellect and the will. It is the vast background of our being, in which they lie, an immensity not possessed and that cannot be possessed. After he own its own law, and not by arithmetic, is the rate of its progress to be compute. The soul's advances are not made by gradation, such as can be represented by motion in a straight line, but rather by ascension of state, such as can be represented by metamorphosis from the egg to the womb, from the womb to the fly. The growths of genius are of a certain total character that does not advance the elect individual first over John, then Adam, then Richard, and give to each of the pain of discovery, inferiority, but by every throe of growth, the man expands there where he works, passing at each pulsation, classes, pollutions of men. With each divine impulse, the mind rends the thin rings of the visible and finite and comes out into eternity and inspires and expires its air. Converse with truths that have always been spoken in the world and becomes conscious of a closer sympathy with Zeno and Erin than with persons in the house. The growths of genius are of a certain total character that does not advance the elect individual first over John, then Adam, then Richard, and give to each the pain of discovered inferiority, but by every thaw of growth, the man expands there where he works, passing at each pulsation, classes, pollutions of men. This is the law of moral and of mental gain. The simple rise as by specific levity, not into a particular virtue, but into the region of all the virtues. They are in the spirit which contains them all. The soul is superior to all the particulars of merit. The soul requires purity, but purity is not it. It requires justice, but justice is not that. Requires beneficence, science, but is somewhat better, so that there is a kind of decent and accommodation felt when we leave speaking of moral nature to urge a virtue which it enjoins for the soul in her pure action. All the virtues are natural and not painfully acquired. Speak to his heart, and the man becomes suddenly victorious. The soul requires purity, but purity is not it. Requires justice, but justice is not that. Requires benefit science, but is somewhat better, so that there is a kind of decent and accommodation felt when we leave speaking of moral nature to urge a virtue which it enjoins for the soul in her pure action. All the virtues are natural and not painfully acquired, speaking to his heart, and the man becomes suddenly virtuous. Within the same sentiment is the germ of intellectual growth which obeys. Damien, if you're going to laugh, go out of my car, please. Obeys the same law. Those who are capable of humanity, of justice, of love, of aspiration, are already on a platform that commands the science and arts, speech and poetry, action and grace. For those who dwells in the moral beatitude does already anticipate those special powers which men prize so highly, just as love does justice to all the gifts of the object beloved. The lover has no talent, no skill, which passes for quite nothing with his enormed maiden, however little she may possess of related faculty, and the heart which abandons itself to the supreme minds finds itself related to all its works, and will travel a royal road to particular knowledge and powers. For in ascending to his primary and aboriginal sentiment, we have come from our remote station on the circumstances instantaneously to the center of the world, whereas in the closest of God we see causes and anticipate the universe, which is but a slow effect. And that is the end of Science of Getting Rich. Hey, cuz, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sorry, some of the words are really, really hard to pronounce. And like anything, practice makes perfect. So I thank you all, and I am grateful for every single one of you. Have a good evening, good night, and welcome new viewers. If you don't know who I am, again, I'm Melissa Osborn, and I'm here to help educate and get you out of your comfort zone. And if you ever want to get on live with me, you're more than welcome. I love to hear your story, and I will sit and listen. Or you can read a book with me. So please let me know if you'd like to read a book with me, and I'll be sure we can find a book. So you all have a good evening, good night, good afternoon. God bless you. Namaste, and thank you. Have a good night. Toodaloo.